Well, welcome to Lockdown Reading Part 2. Of course, lockdown has enabled me to do a little more reading than I'm usually able to do, but the post-Christmas lockdown was fueled by the fact that I have got to an age where there is very little need or desire at Christmas, which makes me a difficult person to buy presents for. However, I'm very happy with a tin of biscuits and a few choice beers, not taken together necessarily. This year though, I've thought I'd indulge in some books, and this is a review of the first tranche of those books I have received. That said, my ability to sit and read at length was curtailed by the arrival on December the 5th of Maisie, then 8-week-old puppy. Hence my first book, which was Old English Sheepdog, The Complete Owner's Manual. If you're ever thinking of getting a dog, it's good always to do some research, but never to do it to this sort of level, as you would never ever get a dog after reading such a book as this. Of course, they tell you everything that is good and bad, but to be honest, if you read a book like this, you would wonder whether any dog was actually capable of a normal life. That said, they're very useful books, and I did find them informative, particularly on certain areas, real nuggets that you can find, and there's one for every breed, I'm sure. My second book is by Gerald Dorr, and it's called In Another World, Van Morrison and Belfast. If you don't know it, Julie and I are great fans of the musician Sir Van Morrison, and I expected the book to be a little bit biographical, mixed with a little bit of the geographical, perhaps with some social context added in, given his rise to fame during the 60s. I expected it to be a bit of a description of Morrison's journey and some of his songs and their relationship to the places in Belfast, but it wasn't that at all, really, but much more about Gerald's upbringing and how that fitted in with Van Morrison. So it's not a long book, but I have to say, a bit of a huge disappointment for me. The next book was this one, The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse by Charlie Mackesy. I knew nothing about the book at all, but it kept popping up on internet searches, so I gave it a go. It's a delightful book, which is wonderfully illustrated in that kind of particular way. In fact, you could probably read the whole thing in about 15 minutes if you just read the text. However, to do so would be to entirely miss the point of the book. It is a book to be taken very slowly, so as to enjoy its riches and its illustrations. Definitely a book for our times. The author, it turns out, is a well-known new wine speaker, so I guess you can look for the Christian overtones. And if you watch the BBC at the moment, you will see adverts for Comic Relief, and some are wearing Charlie Mackesy designed t-shirts. Well, sorry about the interruptions from the puppy there from Maisie. But up next is James Hawes, The Shortest History of Germany. Not a book I actually intended to buy at all, but I did. The book I intended to buy was The Shortest History of England by the same author, which I have yet to read. The first, that one on England, came from an interview that I'd heard on News Talk with the author, as it was a new book, and I bought both as I was interested. I suppose at 230 pages it's a short history, but I found it engaging and interesting, covering the whole of German history from before the birth of Christ to the present day. Of course, we all need to realise that the Germany of today is a relatively modern invention, which it is, but apparently it looked very similar in the time of Charlemagne and has come full circle. I found the significance of the German rivers, the Rhine, the Elbe and the Oder, amazing, and the influence of neighbours who sought to manipulate Germany to their own ends. What was not so pleasant was the way in which the monarchy and the church used their power to further their own ends. Great book, and I look forward to his other offering on England. Next book was this one, Living Better by Alistair Campbell. Alistair Campbell was Tony Blair and Gordon Brown's spin doctor and is reasonably famous for telling a journalist, "We don't do God," when Tony and Gordon clearly did. However, this book is subtitled How I Learned to Survive Depression. It's hard to believe that a person so successful as Alistair, an opinion sought on Irish radio even today, has such a history of depression. In some ways it's a biographical journey through his life and how he's dealt with it or not. The chronic depression that he has suffered on that journey. Not necessarily a fun read, but I certainly understand depression a lot more now than I did, and mental health is very much, of course, at the front of the agenda in the current climate. Next offering is this one, Gloriously Ordinary by Ruth Garvey Williams, which was bought because of our very own pioneer ministers in Ballina, Emma and Marion, who contribute significantly to it, along with some other practitioners from around the country. This is all about incarnational ministry, being Christ in the moment. The chapters are given a foreword by the author, followed by real examples from the practitioners, and then a reflection again from the author. The chapters touch on presence, mercy, humility, listening, hospitality, learning, and the glorious ordinary. Ruth does a magnificent job in piecing it all together. I wonder how she could have known what the practitioners were going to say. The book probably won't get the readership it deserves, but it is a great grounding in mission, in the here and the now. Buy this one. I will definitely read that one again. Next is Silence in the Age of Noise by Erling Gaga. This was a book offered up by Linda Pilau, Director of Galway, for our book club. Like Charlie Mackessy's book, it should not be read at one sitting, but cherished over time. I would love to have heard this read to me by the author, as I think the voice would bring the emotion which would make it a much richer experience. But it is still an amazing book, an amazing reflection, and I particularly love chapter 33. My final offering today is The Twins of Auschwitz by Eva Moses Kaur. Since visiting Auschwitz, I've read extensively about it and find it an honour and a privilege to share in people's stories, knowing that they were the survivors. Many millions more did not. Eva and Miriam are twins from eastern Romania, the only Jewish family in their village, whose family think this will keep them safe, even though they seem to have chosen to ignore the signs of what was coming. As twins at Auschwitz they were of course a prize for Joseph Mengele, who perpetrated horrific experiments on one twin because he always had the other twin running as the control experiment. This is Eva and Miriam's survival as 10-year-olds, and they showed astonishing resilience for their age. Well, I hope you enjoyed that little offering. I'll try and keep it up, but again, just one of those things that one can do in lockdown is read. Thank you.